Mariners made it out of the House of Horrors that is Kauffman Stadium with a salvaged series against the Royals, winning the final game of that series. We're going to talk about what happened in this series as much as we don't really want to. We're then going to talk about the injury to Ty France and what it means going forward into the MLB trade deadline. And speaking of the deadline, you might have heard that the asking price for Luis Robert Jr. is ridiculous. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to finish it all up by breaking down this 4-game White Sox series back at home in Seattle. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 94 of the Hidden Podcast, part of the Bleav Network, the Nicola episode of the podcast, and I am here with Joe. Joe, how are you?
I don't know if they can hear it on... I assume they can hear it. You were cutting out a tad bit, so we'll hope that it corrects itself. So right before we started recording, I was feeling good. Got a win. Now that we're recording, a little less good if there's some audio hiccups, because we never want that. We don't want to be locked on. We don't want to have issues like that, guys. You know what I mean? We don't want to have that happen to us. And if you ever thought that I'd drop a locked on diss, air quotes, at the beginning of the episode of a Hit It Here podcast, you probably could have placed the bet on that with BetOnline. Thank you to BetOnline for being the sponsor for the Hit It Here podcast. BetOnline is your number one source for the NBA Finals and Stanley Cup Finals this season. Every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. And when the games are over, do not fret, because you can head on over to the online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with a variety of different slot games as well. They've got over 150. Head to the website today to get in on the action and use promo code Bleav, that's BLEAV, for your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. It was all fun and games, taking a little jab at Locked On, guys. But you know what wasn't fun in games? In game one of this Royals series, dude. I didn't get to watch a single at-bat of this game. Not even a singular pitch live, because I was at work.
Lucky.
Thank the Lord I was at work. Because a 9-10 loss, after you drop 7 in the first inning, you extend that lead to 8. The team imploded. The pitching imploded, Colton. So, as the guy who watched the majority of this game, you are given, I'm passing you the baton. Go ahead, spill the guts of game 1.
Do I have to? Am I legally obligated?
We can move past it. We can just go box score and say that Bryce Miller didn't have his stuff. 5 innings, 6 hits, 7 earned, 3 walks, 1 strikeout. Not his best. Sauce, fine. Thornton, all right. Snyder, DFA'd later in the week, did all right here. And then Stanek just decided to blow up.
Did Snyder get DFA'd? I think he was just sent down, not DFA'd.
It
was Snead and Salazar that were DFA'd.
No, Stout.
Not Snead. Stout and Salazar.
I always say DFA. I always just assume the worst about getting sent down. Unless I said getting sent down. It doesn't matter. A clean inning from Snyder leads to him getting sent down later in the week. Optioned, Colton. And Stanek implodes in the 9th. A blown save, his second on the year. Dude, after they scored so many runs. And they just let it all go away.
An 8-0 lead.
Yeah.
The 3rd year in a row, the Mariners have blown a 7+ run lead in Kauffman Stadium. I said before this series on Twitter that if the Mariners offense played like it had in Oakland, they're going to get swept. Well, guess what? The offense played great. Mm-hmm. The offense was pretty good over these 3 games. They still almost got swept. They were this close to getting swept in this series because the Royals are a good baseball team. And I know that a lot of people, Jerry, don't want to admit that. And everyone thinks they're cheating for some reason. But
the discrepancy between home and road is a lot. And
it's a lot.
You can have a home advantage. I'm not ready to accuse and point fingers yet. Give me a couple months. We'll see if the discrepancy still is large. But it's a little weird how insane they are at home.
So let's talk about the positives, I think, with this game, Joe. Ryan Bliss hit his first Major League career home run.
Woo!
That was pretty cool. That was in the first inning, I'm pretty sure.
It was.
He hit that as well. Mitch Haniger went 1 for 4. He had 3 RBIs in this game with a bases clearing double. We had Ty France go 2 for 3 and set the record for the most hit by pitches in Mariners history, passing Edgar Martinez. That was cool. And yeah, everybody on the team got a hit except for Josh Rojas, who only had 2 at-bats when he was pinch hitting. Oh, I'm sorry, and Cal also was hitless, but he did have 2 walks. So offensively, again, when you have 10 hits, put up 9 runs, can't complain. You win that 9 times out of 10, which is a really bad, ironic joke, seeing as
Yeah.
how they lost 9 to 10.
How dare you?
Yeah, how dare I?
How dare you
Bryce
make that joke so soon?
Bryce Miller, like you said, didn't have it. He gave up 4 runs in the 4th inning. I'm not gonna lie, I don't remember what those 4 runs were. I don't care. A lot happened in this series. I don't remember how they happened. All I know is it was bad. Let's talk a little bit about the 9th inning, Joe, because this 9th inning could have gone differently. And I know that a lot of the blame goes on Stanek, and a lot of the blame goes on Bryce. However, some of the blame needs to go to Josh Rojas, because if he would have just I don't remember exactly how it went down. If he wouldn't have thrown the ball, if he would have just ate it, they would have been able to turn a double play against the next hitter, if I remember correctly. Instead, he throws the ball away, and then the double play is no longer in order. And long story short, JP had to play up. He had to play it basically to get the runner at home. And because of that, a line drive hit to him. He drops the ball, which could have been an ending double play and kept the game tied. Instead, he drops the ball, and the Mariners lose, and the Royals walk it off. Joe, I feel so happy for you that you got to miss that, especially the 9th inning of that game, because I don't know the last time I was that frustrated at this baseball team.
I'll be honest with you, I took my headset off because I will not be hearing any Josh Rojas slander. I knew they messed it up when I was leaving work. I went to go check the game, and I see a Snapchat notification from you saying Colton Swanson is typing. I knew something was wrong immediately, saw that the game was ended, and then what you said to me cannot be said on the podcast.
No, it
But
could not.
it cannot. So I knew they messed it up. And it's just, you talked about how the offense needed to be better. If it was playing like it was in Oakland, we'd get swept. This series, we only won 1 game. We could have taken this season series against Kansas City in this one. We could have been 4-2 in total. We could have won this series in general, but a fumbled game 1 leads into a second game where you're facing Alec Marsh and you've got Castillo on the mound. You're feeling maybe okay about the potential of a rebound here. And every single time the Mariners scored, they rallied, they fought back, whatever. The Royals just kept playing add-on. They were relentless, would not stop. Mariners scored in the first. Royals said, okay, fine. We can too. Royals get the lead in the second. Mariners score 2 in the fifth. The Royals like, okay, fine, we'll drop 3 on you in the bottom half. Like they will not stop. This game finishes at a 4-8 scoreline. Again, the team, albeit with the strikeouts pretty heavy in this series, still they're making solid contact, putting up runs. Like if you had told me going into this series that the Mariners would have scored 19 runs, 9, 6, and 4. I'm like, bet 19 runs across 3 games. We're gonna score over 6 runs per game. Nice. It's just the other result. The pitching just was not as sharp. I mentioned Castillo, 5 innings, 6 hits, 5 earned, 1 walk, 4 Ks, a home run given up. To Adam freaking Frazier, started the game off with 2 extra base hits, a home run and a double. I was like, okay, like what are we doing here? Why are we playing terrorist ball? I'm satisfied overall with the offense this series. It's just the pitching just did not have its best stuff, and that leads to us being down 0-2 heading into the final day on Sunday.
Yeah, and going into game 2, we also learned late that Ty France was scratched. So after
Weird.
he had gotten hit by that pitch, that 90th hit by pitch with the Mariners, he basically had a hairline fracture in his heel. And because of that, he was out trying to do some pregame stuff, and it just didn't feel right. He wasn't moving very well, so the Mariners scratched him for the lineup, put Luke Raley over there at first base instead. And obviously going into game 3, we learned that meant the call-up of Tyler Locklear. Now we'll talk about what that means here in just a moment, but going into this game, Joe, game 3, an exciting one with Tyler Locklear coming up. He was hitting 7th, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel all right about this game with George Kirby on the mound, but Cole Reagans is another guy who is he's very good. One of the best pitchers in baseball. One of the most underrated pitchers in baseball, in my opinion. And you knew that this game was going to be a tough one for both offenses. And George Kirby was incredible in this game. 7 innings, 1 run. Honestly, like going into the 8th and 9th inning, you had to feel pretty good about it with Andres Munoz coming in the 8th. And then Mike Baumann came in the 9th, Joe, and things kind of went haywire from there.
Yeah, the Mariners grabbed a late lead here. A Tyler Locklear double gives them the lead, and then he scores on a Josh Rojas pinch hit RBI single. So the Mariners got a 2-run lead heading into that bottom of the ninth. Munoz comes in the eighth because Bobby Witt Jr. is due up, ensuring that Munoz faces Witt. That's where the drama, I guess, starts. One thing I do want to note, they said it post-game, Kirby moved to the third base side of the rubber, apparently, helped out with his slider. So if we see continued success there, maybe keep an eye out from where Kirby seems to be positioning himself on the rubber there. But again, I appreciated you mentioning how well Kirby did today. I mentioned previously, this is like a pitching ninja, like masterclass matchup. Both guys showed up for their team today. We get to that ninth inning, a 3-1 lead. Mike Baumann gets the ninth. Goldsmith on the broadcast notes, going for his first career save opportunity. Austin Voth had been warming up previously. Conversation is two options, or three options, I guess. You go to what they did, Mike Baumann. Second, you instead go to Voth, who we saw later in this game, or you let Munoz continue into the ninth and see how it plays out. Obviously, he's not going to go a full 6 outs. I am firmly on the side of he should not have been out there for the ninth. I am okay with him only pitching the eighth because his back. You do not want to risk that even more. He even had a comment post-game saying, like, what were they talking about? Questioning whether or not he was going to go back out there for the ninth. I'm okay with the decision, obviously. If Munoz gives up the 2-run home run, it's like, oh, well, Scott should have took him out. It's more so just your lack of leverage depth at this point. Like, sure, since his Yankees debut, or his debut with the Mariners against the Yankees, Baumann's been fine. He's been really good, I'd say. This is a hiccup in that. Voth, solid the last probably like month-ish. He gives up a 2-run home run in the 10th. After the Mariners, we go to extras here. So that ninth inning, a 2-run home run by MJ Melendez absolutely pimped it. A missed spot, just a kind of a meat pitch. Right in the loop zone for MJ Melendez. Tie game, you head into the ninth. The Mariners do score, which is phenomenal. Julio comes up with the bases. Guys, in scoring position, a clutch base hit. No?
Did you think that Rojas got picked off?
And then Cal Raleigh hits a 2-run scoring hit as well. We don't need to talk about the what ifs, Colton. Call on the field is not overturned. It stays as it was.
I was pretty certain he was picked off.
He should have dove back. It was about as close as you can get without getting it overturned. I would have lost my mind. But it doesn't matter. Run scores anyways, W. And then Cal comes up with a big base hit as well. But I mentioned Voth. He gets the start of the 10th here and immediately gives up a 2-run home run to Hunter Renfroe. And as things progress here, it gets a little hairy. You have to bring in a lefty to face Sauce to face Sauce. You have to bring in a lefty in Sauce to face Pasquantino to finish the game here. By some miracle, they hold on by the skin of their teeth. But Colton, this game was not easy by any means.
Yeah, this whole series was, like I said, a nightmare for the Mariners. And we're getting kind of used to playing the Royals and it just being like this. And they're a pesky team. They're a team that they're not going to just roll over and die. You saw it in the game where the Mariners scored 8. They're not going to roll over and die. You got to keep going against them. And I think that overall, there's not really a whole lot Scott Servais could have done bullpen-wise. Like, you got to work with the cards you were dealt. Munoz was down in the first game. Who else do you go to other than Stanek? It makes no sense to go to anybody else in that situation. Mm-hmm. In this game specifically, Mike Baumann has been great for you. Maybe you do go to Voth there because he has been more successful for a longer period of time with the team. Also, maybe Mike Baumann's just not suited for that situation. I don't know. First career save. Maybe now's not the time in a series like this.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, the Mariners did get a win in this series. I said don't get swept. I said before the series, I said, my only thing, don't get swept. And you're like, whoa. And I'm like, yeah. Don't get swept. And they were this close. They were also this close to winning the series, 2 of 3. So sometimes that's baseball. Overall, when it's all said and done, am I happy with this series? No. But am I mad about this series? Not necessarily. I'm mad about certain things that happened, but losing 2 of 3 to the Royals in the middle of June isn't a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Joe, I just want to note that we're recording this on June 9th, 6/9. That's
nice.
Funny.
Nice.
But like I said, going into that third game, Joe, we had Tyler Locklear getting called up to replace Ty France on the roster. He came in, had a big double, to score the go-ahead run for the Mariners late in the game on Sunday. And rumor has it, Joe, that moving forward, he is going to be playing every day, and they're not going to platoon him with Luke Raley.
I'm curious to see like how that fully plays out. I wouldn't be surprised like against like I say a tough righty. We might not face it against the White Sox, but say in the Rangers series following the White Sox, if we have to face Nathan Eovaldi at any point, I wouldn't be surprised to see Rayleigh in there at first. But like, who do you play in the outfield then? Is it do you go Canzone and Haniger? Like, what are you going to trust there? So I'll be curious to see how it plays out. Nice to see that Locklear will get the majority of the run there because you tweeted it. He's here to get ABs. Like he's here to play. Why not just like see how it goes? He smashed the ball all over the field in the game. Only got one hit to credit for it, but overall didn't look overmatched in his first game by any means. And it's an exciting time for a lot of people because people have been, high on Tyler Locklear for I feel like a while about how he's mashed at every level, but it comes on the unfortunate news that of course Ty France lands on the injured list with a fractured hairline fracture of his right heel. And before I think it was revealed to be a hairline fracture, is that confirmed by the way?
Yes.
Okay,
yes, it is.
fantastic. People were saying it on stream. I couldn't find anything, and I was like panicking. I Googled, which is bad idea.
WebMD
WebMD heel, just heel fracture in general, and it said 3 to 4 months, and my jaw dropped because that's a long time. That's a long time to be without Ty France, especially he's been hitting very well this year. I said it on stream. I'm optimistic. The fact that yes,
a hairline fracture is a lot different than a regular fracture.
What's the timetable?
They said that he could be back in a week or two.
That's what I'm saying. So like that exactly. I was gonna say I'm optimistic about his return sooner rather than later because if the fact that he was out there like pre-gaming, warming up, going through drills and stuff like that, if I'm under the impression, unless Ty France has the largest pain tolerance of all time, bro wouldn't be out there walking on a fractured heel. Obviously, a hairline fracture is different, like you're saying, as most people probably know. I don't know where the oblique is. I don't know what a hairline fracture is. Don't come to me with any questions about any sort of doctor things. Okay, not me. That's not me, guys. Okay, not me. The fact that he was out there trying to get ready for game 2 tells me that it's not super bad. You know what I mean? It's not 2007 Jonah Hill, Michael Cera coming to age film. You know what I mean? It's not that. That it could have been worse. So if we see Locklear for 2 weeks, if we see him for a month, I would expect Ty to probably be out a month, would be my guess, given what we know.
Shannon Dreyer tweeted, France has a slight hairline fracture in his heel. No timeline for his return, but the hope is it won't be out. He won't be out too long. He was in a boot last night using a shoe insert this morning, and he's feeling better. So, moving forward, you never know with a foot, especially, and when you're playing first base. Was it his right foot? I'm not sure actually.
I think it's right.
So when you're playing first base, it's the foot you keep on the bag, whatnot. You keep your heel on the bag. So I could definitely see how, specifically in that spot, it could hurt quite a bit as he tries to come back. Like you said, a month probably makes sense to me. I think that, like you said, Locklear didn't look overmatched, and keeping him up, just letting him get at bats for a month, unless he's abysmal, which I don't think he will be, because based on what we saw today, he looked fine. He looked better than half the guys in this lineup as it was. He looked better than Garver has all year.
Whoa, Garver's had a pretty okay June,
yes.
all right?
Yeah, no, Garver's been good so far in June. But moving forward, does that, for you specifically, Joe, does that change kind of where you're at with this trade deadline? Because let's say Ty misses more than a month. Even if it's only a month, does that kind of change where your priorities are at? Do you then need to focus more on Pete Alonso or Vladimir Guerrero Jr. than you were before?
There's a couple things that would potentially push me in that direction. And it's the idea that Luis Robert Jr.'s the reveal of what the White Sox will be asking for is astronomical, right? Comparing it to the Juan Soto 2022 trade package is just silly. So then the Mariners probably shift their idea of what they were trying to go get for it. Even if they were in on Robert, doesn't matter. Like that I think changes what they could maybe go for. But it also is incumbent upon how long Ty France is out and how well Locklear's doing. If Locklear's hitting 300 over the next month, let him have it. Let him just continue to play, and then go acquire someone else in a different position or go get pitching, whatever. I'm not wanting to make some sort of big reactionary move right now because I think back to like when France got injured and we acquired Carlos Santana. Who was playing first base? probably Dylan Moore.
Before Santana, yeah, like Moore
Dylan
and
Moore,
Haggerty, I
Moore and
think.
Haggerty, right? You've got someone that you trust in the organization that is in the top 10 of your farm, has hit at every level. Unless he's abysmal and France is out for longer than a month, I think they're probably fine at first base.
Mm.
I don't think it really pivots super hard to Alonso and Guerrero compared to other positions. Maybe you try and go out and get like an outfield first baseman type, because at that point, if Locklear's bad, you just move Rayleigh to first, and you can plug someone into the outfield. I'm not. I don't want to make some sort of call on that quite yet. I would like to know France's timetable first. If it's longer than a month, or if he has a setback, sure, then you can go and address it that way. But in that same way, it's like I'm not. I don't know. I'm not like fully like as scared as other people might be. Like people in stream are like, should we trade? Should we go get Vlad Jr.? We can use like Locklear to trade for him and like just shore up that position. Now it's like I don't know if that's like super necessary. And sure, this could be a great MLB showcase for Locklear. If he goes up there and tears it up, then his value rises through the roof. Sure, then it can be a conversation, which is kind of like a weird way to go about that. But I wouldn't be surprised that it could happen. It's just I don't know. Are you like in that camp of like go get Alonso, go get Vladdy?
Not necessarily. I mean, again, it does depend on how long of a timetable it is for Ty France, but you can't be reactionary here. You have to really sit back and analyze where the team is at, whether or not Tyler Locklear is going to be able to make a difference over the long haul, even possibly for the rest of the season. Like let's say let's say France is out 6 to 8 weeks, and Locklear's good those 6 to 8 weeks. You don't send him back down.
Mm-mm.
Like what do you do at that point? Then like Ty France comes back, maybe like if Locklear's been good, do you have him DH and Garver obviously just transitioning more to like a backup catcher role? But then on days where he's not catching, is he still DHing? Like obviously there's so much time to figure that out. We don't know right now. I think that I would look kind of at a lower tier than Vladdy or Alonso, maybe like Mark Canna, who I mentioned in a trade video the day that we're recording this.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who can play first base if you need him to, but is mainly an outfielder. And then, like you said, moving Rayleigh to first base. So I don't think you need to necessarily go out and just because Ty France hurt his foot, you have to go get Vlad and you have to go get Pete. Because reactionary trades like that, you're going to give up a lot in those trades. With that being said, Joe, Luis Robert is going to be in town this week. Starting today, Luis Robert is going to be in town for the next 4 days. The White Sox are the worst team in baseball. Just came off of a 14-game losing streak, Joe, which is insane to say. And the Mariners, after a tough kind of road trip, finishing the road trip 500, they have a chance to really do some damage against the worst team in baseball, Joe.
A lot of fans are going to say, don't let Luis Robert leave Seattle. And we know it's going to happen. Don't get your hopes up. Yeah, this White Sox team, although they just split with the Red Sox in their final 4 game stand here before coming to Seattle. Yeah, losers are 14 in a row. Never something you want to see happen. Mariners won 14 in a row. The complete opposite of that in 22. Could you imagine the opposite end of that? Lord have mercy, I'd want to gouge my eyes out. Gilbert versus Eric Fetty in the first game here. Pretty solid pitching matchup, all things considered. He has really reinvented his career coming back from the KBO. Eric Fetty has pitching to a 3.27 ERA on the year with 73 strikeouts. I don't want to say the hardest matchup of this series because there's one in the final game that will definitely turn some heads. But this White Sox team, Colton, you said they're bad. Lord have mercy, are they horrendous? A team ERA of 4.94, good for second worst in the league, just ahead of the Colorado Rockies. Team WRC Plus, well, gosh darn, they're the worst in the league at 78. 78 team WRC Plus on the year, worst in the league. The Mariners are sitting at 18th with a 97 WRC Plus. Offenses look better against Kansas City, albeit in Kauffman Stadium. Maybe there's something in the water over there. I don't know. They're coming back to T-Mobile. They play better in T-Mobile. Colton, this series is one that sweeping is hard in baseball. But this is a bad baseball team.
It's a bad baseball team, Joe. But the Mariners would have to mop because it's a 4-game series.
You're correct.
And so I think that as long as you win the series, I'm fine. Sweeping's hard in baseball, but if you win the series, okay, cool. Like I'm totally okay with that because it's really hard to mop in baseball. If you split the series, it's not the end of the world. I'm
Mm-mm.
not thrilled about it. If you lose the series, I'm mad.
Yeah,
And if
everyone's
you get mopped, just close the stadium.
sell the team.
Sell the team. The White Sox are 32 games under 500.
Ouch.
It doesn't even feel like we've played 32 games this year. But,
It's about that's almost as many wins that the Mariners have, and that's how many games that are under 500. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So I think that you have, of course, yes, it's going to be interesting because the White Sox are bringing up, was it Drew Thorpe?
He is
That his
pitching
name?
game 2.
Game 2. So he's one of their top pitching prospects. But the Mariners, I think, still have the pitching advantage here. Obviously, Gilbert versus Fetty. Eric Fetty has been very, very good this year, like you said. Probably going to be the hardest pitcher in this series. Although, like you said, Garrett Crochet might be a little bit tougher. But Gilbert's,
Spoilers.
sorry, but Gilbert has been rock solid all year, Joe. Going into game 2, tell me about a little bit about this Drew Thorpe matchup.
So it's Thorpe versus Brian Wu, some youngins on the mound. Thorpe is a guy who's bounced around quite a bit. He was in the Yankee system, a guy that I was looking to maybe acquire for the Mariners during the offseason when he was still a part of that Yankees prospects list. Got shipped out to San Diego for Juan Soto and then found his way into Chicago. Ouch. For the Dylan Cease trade, Colton.
Mm-hmm.
So Drew Thorpe is a guy who he's been kind of on the cusp for 8 months now, as far as like when is he gonna debut, and he's finally getting his shot against Seattle in Seattle. I don't know. Are the White Sox setting him up to fail? I don't know. Like he's a guy that on the year in Double A, it's only in Double A, but 7-1 with a 1.35 ERA. Like I don't know if the White Sox, whatever Double A affiliate their team is in, I don't know, like what league. If it's similar to how the Mariners treat Arkansas as the last stop before pitching, maybe that's what Double A is for the White Sox as well. But 7-1 with a 1.35 ERA across 60 innings pitched. He's got a 170 opponent batting average, a .87 WHIP. He's pitching well, but it's not against major league competition. It's a matchup of two young guns who could go out there and duel. Brian Wu has been amazing the entire year. I expect more greatness. I think last year, his first really the start that you could kind of peg is like, yeah, okay, Brian Wu, he's kind of figured it out, was against the White Sox, City Connect Night, Apple TV. I'm expecting good things from him, but I'm also not ready to write off Drew Thorpe. I think he's, got the ability. He's been a fringe, like I want to say like in around like the top 8 for a couple different systems now. Like he's there for a reason. But it is the White Sox.
Yeah, Brian Wu should be able to hold them in check. I mean, we've seen how good he has been so far since coming off of the injured list. And even if he is still on a pitch limit, whether that be, 85 or whatever pitches, you should be able to carve through this White Sox line. I mean, they're employing Martin Maldonado. Like, any team that employs Martin Maldonado is a joke. Heck, the Astros.
Astros.
But yeah, so we'll see this offense that is literally, it begins and ends right now with Luis Robert. Yeah. And sure, Gavin Sheets is still on that team. There are guys, but it's just an all around everybody on that team sucks.
Hey man, and Paul DeYoung's got 12 homers on the season. You keep your mouth shut.
Does he really?
Yeah, dude. I don't know how.
The resurgence of Paul DeYoung, bro. Game 3, Jonathan Cannon is pitching. Yeah, that's a baseball name if I've ever heard
absolute one. Name.
He'll be making his 5th start of his major league career. So far, he is 0-1 with a 5.94 ERA, Joe, and 16 2/3. He has a 1.62 WHIP with 17 Ks. Right-handed pitcher. Cool.
I'm expecting a complete game shutout.
Yeah, probably, knowing how the Mariners offense likes to operate. He will be opposite of Bryce Miller. We know that this White Sox team is a team, I think, specifically Miller, will be able to eat up. And I think because of his fastball at the top of the zone.
I think Miller is a guy that I like to immediately after a bad start, I'm like, okay, Miller's going to go out there and shove the next one. I feel like he's got a quick turnaround. Like he does not let that really affect him a ton. And it's just, there's no reason for me to believe that Miller can't go out there and dominate this very putrid White Sox offense, especially pitching at home. He pitches a lot better at home than on the road. He's got a 3.09 ERA on his career at home in 21 starts compared to a 5.46 ERA on the road. Sure. Is that T-Mobile's park factor? Is that what anything? Doesn't matter. He pitches better at home. That's what matters. I have full faith and confidence that a bounce back start from Bryce Miller is due against the White Sox. Maybe he goes out and sets his career high in strikeouts. Who knows? Calling my shot now. 12 Ks. 6 innings, 12 Ks. No earned. Bang.
Wow.
Run it.
Okay.
Run it.
I mean, if that's what happens, I am so in, Joe. Going into game 4, we have The Rock versus Garrett Crochet, another guy who has kind of bounced around, I think, in the bullpen, right? He was in the bullpen for a little while.
Yeah, he came up very quickly after being drafted. Was in the bullpen as
same year, I think, right?
Yeah, it was when the White Sox were a good baseball team, if you guys can believe that. Once they were good. He, I think, is their best pitcher, at least stuff-wise. Like, you know, he's basically alum to Chris Sale. Like, comes up young, lefty out of the pen with a funky delivery, then transitions to a starter and has very high strikeout stuff. He's 6-5 on the year with a 3.33 ERA, but 103 strikeouts to his name, Colton. The Mariners are in for a long day as far as not striking out against Garrett Crochet, but you do have Luis Castillo, a stabilizing force, albeit it wasn't super stabilizing in Kansas City, but he is back home facing the White Sox. We'll keep using the same argument for every pitching matchup. This White Sox team is bad, guys. The White Sox as a whole should not be able to do a ton of damage against this Mariners pitching staff. I believe that this is the best pitching matchup. You're both best pitchers going on this day, I would say, in the final game on Thursday. I just hope that you get vintage Castillo. He himself did not have his best start against Kansas City. He has to be looking to just right the ship and go out there and dominate a White Sox team that is just very subpar.
You called your shot, Joe. I'm calling mine.
Bet.
You ready?
Yep.
Off of Garrett Crochet, Tyler Locklear, first home run.
Okay. What inning?
That's the 4th.
Ooh, I like it.
Second AB.
Yeah.
Yep. He's gonna crush it over Edgar's. Not quite into the upper deck, but like into the top of Edgar's. You know,
Not through the O in the T-Mobile side.
That's what I normally say. No,
Yeah.
maybe his second home run. That'll be what it is. But that's gonna do it from us here for episode 94 of the Hit It Here podcast, presented by Bet Online, the Austin Jackson episode of the podcast, and go Mariners.
Not former Mariner, Austin Jackson.
Correct.